Welcome to Better with Brit Renee, the podcast where we get real, get honest, and get better, one conversation at a time. Here we talk all things family, faith, finances, and everything that just feels good to the soul. This is your safe space to grow, to heal, and to elevate. Because better isn't about being perfect, it's about being intentional. So whether you're working on your mindset, your money, or your relationships, you're in the right place. So let's keep it real, keep it light, and most importantly, keep getting better. Because better starts with you, starts with us. It starts with Better with Brit Renee. Welcome back to Better with Brit Renee. I'm Brit Renee, and this is a podcast where we grow better together, one conversation at a time. And I am shouting out each and every one of you that has subscribed to the channel, that continues to watch every episode, that shares these with someone, because that's the only way we're going to grow better together is if we continue to share the knowledge and share the feel good. So welcome back. And of course, you already know at the beginning of every episode, we have to do a better perspective. And you know, I'm always encouraging you guys to give me a better perspective in the comments if you have a different take or you want me to think about some things differently as well. Let me know below. In this week's Better Perspective, I want to remind you all to drink your water. I know that sounds so small, but being properly hydrated has a huge impact on your overall health and well-being. Not just your health, but also your mood. You guys, most of us aren't ever properly hydrated, and we're asking our body, which is made up of like 70% water, to literally run on fumes. And then we wonder why we mad, upset, irritable, can't get no sleep, you know, and all of these things because you're running off of nothing. So the saying is true to drink your water and mind your business. Well, your business needs to be taking care of yourself on the inside and out. I actually recently have been more conscious of my exact water intake daily, trying to get to a gallon every day. And I've noticed that the days where I get more water, there is a drastic improvement in my mood, my performance, my sleep, and so forth. So I'm like, dang, I feel better. I'm nicer. I'm happier. I can do more when I'm properly and well hydrated. This means not only just drinking water, but the quality of water that you're drinking, incorporating more alkaline water, incorporating electrolytes into your water. If you're not drinking alkaline water, like I have been so mindful of all of these things, and I have seen so much improvement in, like I said, my mood, my mental stability, my ability to, you know, get better sleep at night. All of these things, you know, implement, and also weight loss. We're all trying to lose weight, right? It's the beginning of the year. That's the theme right now, is getting your health together. And so the biggest thing that you can do that is the simplest and easiest, along with getting some rest, is drinking your water. So be better and be better hydrated. That's this week's Better Perspective. Today's episode is for anybody whose heart feels a little heavier during this time of the year, because holidays aren't just lights and gifts and laughter. For many of us, they're reminders of who's missing, what's changed, and parts of ourselves that we're still trying to heal. And that's why I'm so honored to have the Dr. Sherry Blake with us today. Now, you may have seen her on TV. You've watched her counsel celebrities through some of their hardest moments, and you've probably read her words when you needed a lifeline. She is one of the most respected clinical psychologists in the country, known for her straight talk, her cultural understanding, and the way she makes healing feel human, relatable, and possible for us all. Dr. Sherry has spent decades helping people navigate grief, trauma, love, family dynamics, and all of life's transitions. And today she is here to help us understand why holiday grief hits so hard and how we can survive it, honor it, and still allow ourselves to feel joy again. So whether you're grieving someone you lost, someone who's left, or someone who never became who you needed them to be, this conversation is for you. So let's breathe, let's settle in, and let's get better together with Dr. Sherry Blake.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Thank you for being here. Thanks. Now, I obviously have been a fan of yours. I've watched you, like I said, on social media, on TV with all these celebrities and stuff. So I'm like, that lady know what she's talking about. And when we met in person and you walked up to me, I was like, okay, yes. Girl, give me your number because I'm sure for to have you on a podcast.
Right on time.
Yes,
it was right on time.
I'm grateful to have you here. And like I was telling you off camera, grief is something that I have dealt with a lot lately in my recent years, and you don't really understand the weight of grief until you experience
You're
it.
right.
You know, or even how grief in different ways affects you. Like I lost my uncle, who was sort of like a father figure to me, but I didn't even realize he was a father figure to me till I lost him. And just the grief of, dang, I never even appreciated him for that.
That is so common. And you know, one of the things that I want to say, no one escapes grief. If you live long enough, no one escapes grief. And it's different for everyone. But when it hits you, it hits you hard. It hits you hard. Because so often we have things we would love to have said to someone we didn't get to say. We didn't even think about saying because we sort of assume they're going to be here forever. And that's not the case. That is not the case.
Yeah, so no one is exempt. Like it's like everybody has a birthday, everybody has a death day.
That's right.
And we're all gonna lose something or someone that's close to us.
That's right. And it's hard. It doesn't make it easy, but we have to be real about it. We have to prepare for it because a lot of times, especially in African American communities, we do not want to talk about death, dying, or loss. We just won't talk about that. But the reality is there's 100% chance somebody you know is going to pass.
You're right. You're right about that. What does that preparation look like, though?
Well, preparation looks like talking about it, being honest about it, allowing yourself to feel, allowing yourself to be human. So often, you know, we think we have to be strong. We can't talk about it. If we pray about it, you know, that'll take care of it. And praying about it is necessary, but it doesn't take the pain away. And we have to understand that, you know, it doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you, you know, solve to grieve. We all grieve. And we have to talk about it, talk about that person, what that person meant to us. And there's different ways of grieving. In different cultures, people grieve differently. And there is no timetable. And sometimes people say, well, how long is this going to take? You know, you've been grieving for a long time. Are you still feeling like that? And those are questions you go, really? So what I tell people when somebody asks you, well, are you over this now? How long are you going to be grieving? You know what my answer to them, to tell them? How long are they going to be dead? Because you're going to grieve a lifetime. But you can learn to grieve without the pain. And that's what I work with people, learning to grieve without the pain because you love that person.
Yeah.
Grief is the price we pay for love.
Absolutely. And I think that you might get better. You know, you might have a season where it's the hardest and everything you're dealing with is that it feels heavier.
Right.
And then it might be seasons where, like, I will say my uncle's been dead probably 2.5 years now. So this year it got a little bit lighter. But then around the holidays, especially, you still miss that. Like, I just pulled out, I literally just bought a VCR so I could watch a home video that I knew he was in because I wanted to see. And I cried like a baby just watching that.
And it's okay to cry. And it's human, and expect what people experience is what we call emotional triggers during certain times. There are certain things that will trigger memories. There, you know, and that could be anything from music. You hear a song that, oh, we used to listen to that together. You see a movie, or more importantly, you smell something, you know, or you walk in a restaurant, you go, oh my God, I remember when and those are emotional triggers. Don't fight the pain. Don't fight the tears. Don't fight. And I tell people, we all like, we got to hold it together. We got to be brave. No. What I suggest, allow yourself time. Allow yourself to cry. Allow yourself to feel and allow it to pass because it will pass. What keeps it stuck and what keeps people stuck is fighting so hard to get over it. And it's not one of those things you're going to just get over.
Yeah. Are those emotional triggers why grief feels louder during this time of year?
Absolutely, because you look around. During this time of year, you have all pictures of everybody being happy. You turn on social media, you see families, and you see people dressed in the same PJs. You go, oh, isn't that sweet? Or you see dinners and that's not true for everyone. Everyone's not feeling that merry sense of happiness. And so it feels harder, it feels louder, and it reminds you of what you're missing. But that's okay. And you don't have to pretend you're okay. And I tell people, prepare. When I say prepare for the holidays, one of the things I say, you know, number one, pick and choose what you're going to go to. You don't have to go to every family dinner. You don't have to go to every party. You don't have to go to every invitation. What you have to do is say no. But when you decide to go, or whatever you decide to do, be smart about it. I tell people, take someone with you you can trust. Take a friend, take a close family member, and you all have a code word before you go in there.
You ready to go? I'm ready to go. You ready to go?
And the code word may be, oh, it's hot, or whatever you want that code word to be. And once you have a code word and that person says it, you know it's time to get out. And it's not a scene. It's like, oh, no.
Yeah.
See you all. It's been nice.
Yeah.
And so you do things like that. Prepare for that. Learn to say no. And a lot of people can't say no during this season. Learn to say no. And sometimes when we're supporting someone that has lost someone, we want to make them happy. We want to make them feel better. That person just lost someone. And it could have been 2 years ago. It could have been 5, 10 years. But if they're still grieving, they're still grieving. And don't try to make them. Girl, let's just get out. Let's just do something. You'll feel better.
You need to get out that house.
You need to get out of that house. Not today. I will eventually, but not today. And you have to be able to say no.
Yeah, I like that. Can you explain the difference between normal expected sadness and complicated grief, and how someone can tell when, like, okay, no, I need to step in, they really need support?
Yeah, that's a good question. Very good question. Number one, there's no such thing as normal, because everybody's normalcy is different. So, I'm not worried about you as a psychologist if you're saying, I'm not getting out of bed. Now, if you stay in the bed 2 weeks, I'm going to start like, come on, let's talk. Because what happens is it moves from being just a normal grieving period to moving into depression, moving into, not that you're not feeling like there are days you don't want to go back to bed. That's true. But I'm talking about people that don't want to get up. They can't comb their hair. They can't brush their teeth. They can't take a shower. And this goes on for weeks and weeks and weeks. And people tend to isolate when they feel sad. They tend to isolate because they don't want people to know how bad they're feeling. And that isolation is unhealthy.
Yeah. And I thought, and this is from my own experience, I went through that period because I felt like, well, people know me as being happy. People know me as always being the light in the room. So I can't even show up or be around them if I'm not my best self. So I need to isolate until I'm back at 100.
But you don't supposed to be at 100. You lost someone you loved.
Right.
So, why, like, I got to pull it together, or I can't show my face. No, people need to see that you're human, because what you'll open is an opportunity for them to share their humanness, and you can get support that way. But it's when we withdraw and we pull back and we have to have our happy face on before we walk out the door, that's what makes us sadder, that makes us harder, that makes us depressed. You got to allow room. You got to give yourself grace, give yourself opportunity to say, I'm sad.
Yeah.
Somebody say, how are you doing? Girl, you look good.
Girl, at least I don't look like what I feel like. That's
you hear that all the time.
I don't look like what I've been through.
And you don't look like what. Well, you don't know what I've been through.
Yeah.
So it could have been worse. But however, you don't have to pretend. And I think so often we wear this mask. We feel like we have to. And grief can become complicated when it's unresolved. What happens is sometimes, let's take for example, you lost a loved one. But say you lost them in a traumatic way, a tragedy. They got killed or murdered or whatever, and you don't have closure on any level.
Right.
And I have worked with people so often where they've lost a loved one, and someone has been found guilty, but they have to go back to trial. And every time they go back to trial, it reopens those wounds. So until they can get peace and we can work through those issues, they're not resolved. And a lot of times it takes time.
Yeah. Two things, and I want to unpack that. So with the performative part of it, a lot of times, especially, and I feel like our community, and I don't know a job that gives you grief time off, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like, and God has a funny way of working sometimes, because just my example, I lost my uncle, and then I was granted my dream job within a month.
Wow.
So it's like, now I have to go into this workspace and be this and perform and be happy because these people don't know me.
They don't know.
Yeah, so I can't be my sad self. Or even if someone who has a job, they still have to show up. You might get a week off, or if you're lucky, you get to take a little bit. But like we said, we can't put timelines on grief. So what advice do you give to someone who still has to or feels the weight of responsibilities and obligations to still show up in the workspace while grieving?
Again, that's another question, because we still have to show up for life.
Yeah.
We still have to show up in spite. That's why it's so important to work with someone, work with a therapist, work with a psychologist in terms of working through that emotional pain. The emotional pain is going to be there. We still have to function. We have children. We have responsibilities. We have families. So whatever the case may be, we have to show up. It doesn't mean that you're not grieving. It means that you're functioning.
Yeah.
And you'll start functioning better as you start processing those issues.
But you need someone external to help you process.
Yes, sometimes we do. A lot of people, if they're at a stage where, they can say, okay, I can work with this, I can deal with this, I'm moving. But don't hesitate to ask for help, because it is painful. And sometimes you really want someone to talk to that's not your yes man, or not your, you're going to be okay. And I run grief groups, and I do the healing journey, and and I'll talk about that in a minute. But one of the things I love to do is ask people, what are some of the most ridiculous things you've had people to tell you when you're grieving? And it's funny, because people say, they'll look at me real strange, like, oh, God, I don't know if I should say that. But then they'll tell me, say things like, well, the people have told me, well, she's in a much better place, or he's in a much better. Really?
Yeah.
Or
really? Everything happens for a reason.
Everything happened and you're going to go, really? Yeah. Really? And, those are the real things that, that hurt. And you have to stand there and like, oh, okay. Because people are trying to be supportive, but they have no idea. That is not, they don't have no idea what to say. And that is not the support you need at that time.
Especially when it's like, sometimes you might get a pass on those things. I feel like if it's like someone old age, like, they've been suffering for a while, so now they're not in pain. But if it's like something tragic or a child, you'd be like, God had a plan for that, for this 6-year-old to be.
Help me understand that.
Yeah.
And we can bring that back and understand, once we get through all our pain, it's okay that we're angry with God. God knows we're angry before we
because you be feeling guilty about that.
Yeah, and then you feel,
I lost one of my friends a year after my uncle passed, and she was in her 30s. Beautiful girl who was healthy and a mom of 3 babies. Not even, and I'm like, why would you do that, God?
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like, why would you take her from her children? Right. Now these children have to grow up without a mom. Why would you? And I was really angry at God and mad for a minute, and everybody was like, while everyone else was crying, or I felt guilty for being even mad at God.
But see, you're human, and it's okay to be angry. He already knows you're angry, and that's perfectly okay. But a lot of times when things happen, we run away from God. We should run through to God and say, what's going on? Hey, help me understand this. Help me try to make sense out of this, because it doesn't make sense in the natural. It doesn't make sense in the natural. And those are normal responses. And, the whole idea of feeling guilty, a lot of people feel guilty. And I work with people through that guilt. I work with people through that pain and that hurt. But the guilt comes in like, this is not the socially acceptable thing to say out loud, or this is not how I should. And all the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, we need to let that go.
Yeah.
Let it go, and just be.
And not judge yourself for how you're feeling.
And don't beat up on yourself. So many people just beat themselves down. Like, I should, I would.
If I had to talk, I went through all of that. If I had to talk to her about this, she wouldn't have been in that situation.
Right. And if I had called her back.
More,
And the thing is, unfortunately, we all have a birthday and we all have a death date, and we don't know when. And that's one of the things that's part of life. And nothing we did or didn't do is going to change the fact that that was their date.
Yeah.
And I tell that with people, especially with people who have attempted suicide, or people that were families where a loved one has died by suicide. I have worked with people that have attempted and they didn't die, and they were very angry. And I remember once telling this young man, says, it wasn't your time.
Yeah.
And so no matter what you do to yourself, unless it's time, it's not your time. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, God, now I screwed up my life. Well, not screwed up your life. However, you have to look at life differently.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What's one myth about grief you wish people would stop believing?
Wow, there are so many myths, but one myth that comes to my mind is that you're in control. That, and if I had prayed more, if I had have done this, the should have. Those
if I had us,
if I had us, it's like, let it go, and re-love our loved ones, and re-grieve hard given the amount of love we had. And sometimes we can let that go easily, but sometimes the myths, they just continue to pile up. They continue, and we think about things. It's like, you know what? Be patient with yourself. Have grace on yourself, because you know what? You're not in control. You really are not in control. And as soon as you know that, and you're able to process that, understand your emotional triggers, understand and prepare for those emotional triggers, knowing that, I am able to manage what I can manage. Today is a good day. Tomorrow may be horrible. Grief comes in waves. That's something else people should understand. Today, it may be a fantastic day. Tomorrow, it's like a wave hit you and knocked you to your feet, and you don't want to get back out of bed again. That's normal. Yeah. But you have to talk to people. And you asked me a question earlier about, when do you talk to people? And sometimes you don't know. I say that things are just not getting back to any sense of, I don't want to say normalcy, where I can function. When your grief is interfering with your functioning, then it's time to seek help. That means that if it's several months out and you're still crying and somebody mentioned their name and you're on it, you can't function. All of a sudden you can't do for yourself or do for your family, do for your children. Maybe it's time to talk about it. And a lot of times we don't want to talk about it because we're trying to avoid the pain.
Right.
And you have to move through the pain to get to the healing. And you cannot heal what you can't feel. So you got to allow yourself to feel.
That's a bar. You can't heal what you can't feel.
That's it.
So you have to allow yourself to heal.
Yeah.
Because I think that we're so afraid of our feelings, or afraid that we're going to fall too deep in them.
Yeah. I've heard so many people say, well, I don't want to talk about it because if I start crying, I'll never stop crying. Yeah, you're going to stop crying.
Yeah. Your eyes are going to dry eventually.
That's right. It's okay. And you want to, as a psychologist, I really want people to know that it is okay to find a safe environment. And I try to create those environments for people where they can feel safe to share in honesty. Because sometimes you have people like, well, how are you doing? Oh, I'm fine. I'm just good.
I'm good. I'm fine. I'm making it.
I'm making it, yeah. But are you? And how are you making it? How are you, And so I help people unpack that.
Yeah. And so you want to step in and get someone help when they aren't functioning, but it's okay to seek help in those environments and speak to someone way before it gets to that point.
Absolutely, because you don't want to be to the point, or you would like to think you won't allow yourself to get to the point that you're just totally not able to function.
Yeah.
And you talked about jobs not allowing grief time. You're absolutely right. So what happens? People take it out in sick time. They don't show up. They show up late. They're not productive.
Yeah.
So it costs the company more if they had just allowed that person some time off, as opposed to saying, nope, you got to be there. So you're there and you put on that happy face but your heart's not into it. You're not able to focus.
Present.
You're not present. You're not able to focus like you would if you had been in a better space.
Yeah, and you've worked with like so many high performers and celebrities and people who are always expected to hold it together.
Yeah.
What does grief look like behind closed doors for those people who never get to show emotion publicly?
Another excellent question, because I don't care what you do in life. I don't care how many zeros are behind your salary. It doesn't matter. You hurt, you hurt. I don't care what socioeconomic status is. The difference is how it's displayed. How it's displayed. So a lot of times you will see, or at least I have seen, people go on stage, they do what they need to do, and they come back and they can't wait to get off the stage, and they're crumbling. One of the things, and I don't know if you had a chance to see it, Tony Braxton did a little clip for me talking about my work with her doing her sister's death. And I think that's a clear example, because it's really, really hard.
What did she say?
One of the things she said is that it was very hard. I don't care how big a celebrity, it still hurts.
For
and
sure.
She talked about her pain with the death of her sister and my working with her during that painful time. And you didn't see it in the public, but I knew what was going on behind closed doors.
And kudos to her for, getting the help.
Isn't that, yeah. And I admire her for not only getting help, but to speaking out to help other people, because that is so important, because we're like, oh, I'm okay, and we don't talk about that it was okay to get help. We don't talk about that it was okay to feel just in the dumps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like her, she's been like a pivotal or a strong one in her family
Absolutely.
unit. So for her to get the help, I'm sure probably not only freed other people, but even her sisters
Absolutely.
and family members to seek that help as well.
Yeah, and it normalizes. One of the things I have tried to do with psychology, I've tried to do with my work, is normalize the fact your mental health is just your health.
Yeah.
We get all, like, I don't want to talk about mental health issues. I don't want to seem like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
You're not crazy. Your mental health is
just
part
like
of
that
your
blood
health.
pressure need to be checked. All of that need to be checked.
That's right. All that needs to be checked. And if you don't check it, at some point, something's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of like the strong person, a lot of us are the strong friend or the matriarch in our family, or even the man in the family, the household. And we feel the pressures of being the strong one. But how do you, as the strong one, allow yourself or the fixer to finally break and admit? How do you move into that transition where you can now be fixed?
That's
or
right.
you can be helped?
That's right. And, so often we feel like we have to be strong. And we wear the cape. I call it the cape. We're the superwoman or the superman. And we're doing everything for everybody, but nothing for ourselves. I tell people, take off the cape. Take off the cape. Put it down and slowly walk away from it. And when you do that, you're allowing yourself to be human and say, you know what, I need a break. And a lot of times we won't take that break because we don't want others to judge us, to think we're not strong. You know what? That's relative.
Yeah.
And you must take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, who's going to take care of you?
Right. Then how you gonna continue to be strong? If you weak
and you're not really strong, you is not as strong as you think
you are,
because everybody sees those cracks, and it's okay because you're human.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize we can grieve a lot of different things, not just death.
Absolutely.
You can grieve versions of yourself that no longer exist. You can grieve people that you had to cut off. Absolutely. Or situate, like you can grieve jobs.
You grieve jobs. You grieve losses of people in your life. You grieve friendships. You grieve divorce. People going through empty nesters. We grieve a lot of different ways and a lot of different things, but we don't call it grief. We don't want to call it grief because we don't want anybody to say, well, you're grieving. No, you're hurting, and you're hurting because that loss of what you hoped for, what you expected, it just didn't come true. Yeah. Another thing we grieve a lot is our health. Our health changes, and we are in a position, or we find ourselves in a position sometimes that we can't do like we used to do. And, we have a diagnosis of some sort, and people say, you're going to be okay, but it's not okay at that time. And one of the things I tell people is okay not to be okay. What's not okay is not getting help for it.
Looking for the perfect space to bring your vision to life? Welcome to Visionaire Production Studios, where creativity meets capability. With over 10 dynamic sets, including a fully equipped kitchen set, we're built for creators, brands, and dreamers who don't just want content, they want cinema. Whether you're shooting a podcast, cooking show, campaign, or content series, we've got the space and the team to help you make magic and bring any vision to life. If you can see it, we can help you shoot it. Let's turn your vision into production at Visionaire Production Studios. And even with the holidays coming up, I think a lot of people grieve or dread even going around families because family dynamics can be very triggering or difficult.
Absolutely.
So how do people process that, or what is your advice on people dealing with that? Because it might be, sometimes trauma or abuse or just even negative talk that has existed in these family dynamics.
Well, first thing, realize it's okay to say no. And realize that, you know what, I do not have to do this. And people are going to talk one way or the other. It doesn't matter. Do I need to be there? Do I want to be there? And it's okay to say, I don't want to go. But if I do go, I'm only going to stay for a limited time, or I'm going to go by there. But you don't owe anybody an explanation. You don't have to go through. And a lot of things are traumatic. A lot of families are toxic. We don't want to talk about toxic family. And I'm sure somebody out there knows toxic family members. Mm-hmm. And anytime you're around them, something's going to be said, something's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So why put yourself in that position? Mm-hmm. Why? And a lot of times people will go through and put themselves in that position because they say, well, it's family. Really? Mm-hmm. Family or not, it doesn't matter. You deserve the best. You deserve to take care of yourself in the best way you can take care of. And you do not have to, put up with a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to give you an example. Say I have one person in my family that is connected to my trauma, but I still want to be around my family for Thanksgiving, Christmas, said holiday. I still have a desire for the family fellowship. And I still want to go, but I know it's a pretty good chance that person that's connected to my trauma will be there. How do I mentally prepare myself to go into that situation, knowing I'm choosing to still go? Like, even if you're past that point where I don't have to go, but you're like, I want to be there for everybody else, or for myself to see and connect with everybody else.
Well, and that's, again, excellent point, because you love your family. You may not like what happened with this family member. So one of the things you learn to do is work through whatever that trauma is, so it's not impactful. It's not that something happened, it's how you're responding. And if you are getting triggered when you see that person, you haven't worked through it. Emotional triggers are signs that we still have work to do. And so if once you have honestly worked through it and let it go, or gotten to a point that it really is not significant, then you can go in a room and that person could be there, you can speak, and you keep right on going. But if you go in and you see that person and all of a sudden your heart, it skips a beat, or your stomach starts in knots, you have some emotional issues that has not been worked through, that person is triggering. And you have to work through that,
so
because it doesn't go away.
Yeah, try to work through those emotional triggers first before you even put yourself in that environment.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what does a healthy boundary actually look like in real life? Like, could you give us what example of language to possibly use? Because I'm still learning. I feel like this is also something we're not taught growing up, especially in the Black community, what it looks like, what it sounds like to set a boundary.
Well, first thing with boundaries, I always say it starts with the word no, because this is a line, and you have to decide how much you're going to tolerate, how much you're not going to tolerate. And that is decided by you. So everybody's boundary is different depending on what the circumstance is, what has happened, who you are. And when I say set a boundary, and we hear that word boundary put out a lot, you have to understand what is a safe space for you, where you're not going to allow certain things to happen. We have friends, we have families that they overstep their bounds. They say things, they do things. And when they do that, you have to call them on it and say, I don't appreciate that. I do not appreciate what you said, or I do not appreciate what you've done. And if you continue to do that, then I'm going to choose not to be around you, or I'm going to choose whatever. But you set the response to what's for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then, so you say said person feels like, okay, I'm setting the boundary. I'm not going to go home for Christmas. I'm not going to spend time with my family during the holiday because I know Uncle Barry or whoever is going to be there, and Uncle Barry did some messed up things or said something, or whoever, granny, whoever is going to be there, and I don't want to be around that person. My boundary is I'm choosing not to put myself in that environment. How do they deal with the guilt of not going home? Because, you know, family will be like, well, like you said, you ain't gonna come, we ain't gonna see, it's the holiday. So how do they deal with that guilt of not going home?
First of all, be clear with your family. I'm not coming home because Uncle Joe is going to be there, and I do not want to be around Uncle Joe at this time. And that's enough. That's enough. But your guilt it goes back to unresolved emotional stuff. Why are you feeling guilty for protecting yourself? Why are you feeling guilty by saying no and saying, enough is enough? You don't have to feel guilty because you choose to put yourself first.
Yeah, and doing what's best for you.
And doing what's best for you and in your best interest. Why do you feel guilty? Which is another issue, because we get guilt trips run on us all the time by family. And we have to learn that it's not about them putting the guilt trips on us, it's how we're responding to them. That's their issue. That's not your issue.
Right.
But you got to separate what's your issue from their issue.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So we talked about how grief isn't just about death, right? It's also about the death of what we expected, whether it be a job, relationship, kids, or, just things like that. Can you unpack what it means to grieve when someone is still living?
Oh, that's a good one. And, that happens more often than we think.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we're caregivers. We're people that are caring for people that are sick. And we have to watch them grieve. Watch their death, their pending death.
Yeah.
And that's a very hard thing. And that's called anticipatory grief. And that type grief is, now I'll give you an example. My parents died several years ago, and they had been married for 67 years, but you're never ready to let them go. And they died 3 months from each other.
Oh, they were true soulmates. They say that.
But
that's a lot for you.
That's a lot. But I had to, because both of them had become ill and they were declining. So I watched that decline for years. I watched that decline. And at some point they're going to leave, but you're not ready.
Yeah.
You don't know what day, you don't know when, so you just sort of like doing what you can do. So that anticipatory grief gives you a chance, though, on the flip side, to say your goodbyes. It gives you to say all those things you want to say and have those conversations that you need to have. But it's very hard watching someone you love sort of slip away.
Yeah. And it's hard to admit it.
Yeah.
Because even with my uncle, he walked into the hospital and within 2 weeks, he was gone. And like you said, we watched his health decline. But of course, I'm like, week 1, even though it's drastically different than when he walked in, I'm like, no, we have to be positive. We can't speak negative. That's right. Girl, it was like you spend so much time in denial.
That's right.
that you kind of waste the time to prepare.
That's so true. That is so true, because we want to think they're going to recover. We want to believe that they're going to get through this. It's going to be okay. But when you see the handwriting on the wall, only thing you can do is, yes, you can pray, but you have to prepare.
Yeah.
You have to pause. You have to give yourself a reality check and say, this may not turn out like I'm hoping for or praying for, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And let me make the best of every moment. So often we jump ahead and we are in that state of denial that we won't use the here and now moments. You have to use the here and now moments. One of the best conversations I had with my mom is a few days before her death, and I was laughing about some things, and she used to be very, very quick on her feet and things. And that day she was quick on her feet, and she was laughing. We were joking about something, and we were able to laugh, and I mean laugh. So my memory is that laughter. And so often we get caught up in how a person dies as opposed to how they lived. And we really need to remember their life, because their life cannot be reduced to that last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. That's a bar. Don't get caught up in how a person died. Remember how they lived. That's big. So another example, I had a friend group, and after the death of one friend, the friend group started to deteriorate, and then it was like another friend completely disowned the rest of the friend group. Right? So I feel like not only have I had to grieve the death, but now the dismantling of the left that's here.
Right.
How do you deal with knowing this person is still alive and will never be what we were, but also, is it wise to try to have a conversation with someone that is alive, or are you just continually to rehearse yourself in the
I think it's
grieving
necessary
processes?
to have conversations, and sometimes those conversations can open to new meaning. And sometimes they close doors, but you got to be prepared either way. But it's worth, if you value that friend, to have a conversation.
Because a lot of people have been like, well, what are you expecting, like, out of that? Like, what do you just want to be rejected to your face, or you want to be?
Well, no, it's not about how the other person's going to respond. The conversation should be about what you want to say to her, not what she's going to say to you, because she's going to say to you however she takes it, however she feels. But you have stuff you need to say to her as part of your closure. And it's okay to say, I want to have a conversation with you. You may not want to talk with me. However, if you'll give me 10 minutes, I would like to speak with you. Yeah. And you share what you need to share.
And then feel confident in the fact that I got that off.
That's right. One of the things I do in the healing journey, I do have people to write letters. Sometimes, letter writing to help release some of those things when a person don't want to hear, or the person's not willing to listen, and help process that, because it's really for you. Yeah. And keep in mind, healing is for you.
Right. It's not for the other person.
It's not for the other person. It's for you.
Oh, and I think
forgiveness is for you.
Yeah, I think we wrap so much of that process up in the reaction of the other person.
Yes. And we get caught up in what they're going to say. If they're going to, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah. So what is the healthiest way you can accept that someone may never say what you need them to say or be what you needed them to be in that process as you're healing?
Accept that you're not in control.
Yeah. Well, Black women, listen, we can't control it.
And it's okay. It is okay. And it doesn't mean something's wrong with you either. Don't blame yourself. It's what it is.
You can't control how someone else responds or reacts.
That's right.
And it's no matter how you package it, because we think like, well, if I say it like this, or if I come to them like that,
No. You're only in control of you.
Yeah. Oh, okay. How can someone separate grief from self-blame in situations like breakups, divorces, and even like family entanglements?
We all have responsibility in situations. It takes two to tangle. And look honestly in the mirror. And I tell people sometimes in therapy, do I need to bring a mirror in? I want you to look in the mirror and be honest with yourself. And be forgiving of yourself. If you did wrong, you did wrong. Yeah. If you didn't do the best you could, it's okay. Yeah. But be honest. So the self-blame comes in when we beat ourselves up because, if I had have gone, or if he had have said this, or if he had.
Yeah, the wouldas, couldas, shouldas.
Hey.
Yeah.
Let it go.
What's a piece of advice you can give to people who feel guilty for enjoying life while grieving, laughing, smiling, especially during the holidays? But then it hits you and you're like, I shouldn't be.
Well, let and that's something that so many people struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
They want to feel happy. They do feel happy, and then people look like, oh, you lost wasn't that only 6 months ago? Well, like, okay. One of the things I say to people, you carry grief with you. You don't stop life because of grief. Mm-hmm. And what I do is teach people how to carry grief without the emotional pain. Mm-hmm. And it's the pain that enables us and paralyzes us. But you will grieve, at different points and in different ways. And so it doesn't mean that you can't be happy. You don't disconnect and don't feel guilty for living. Somebody said, well, I feel so guilty for dating again. It's only been a year. It's only been 2 years. Well, if you said your goodbyes and you're okay and you're looking for love again, it's okay.
Yeah.
And you got to expand your heart. It doesn't remove the love you had for that other person. Your heart just expands to allow room for another person.
I like that. How can someone honor a loved one whose memory, how can someone honor a loved one's memory in a way that feels like healing and not painful, or like they're reliving it?
Yeah, do something in that person's honor. You may want to plant a tree. You want to do something that they enjoyed doing on a certain date. If they enjoyed going to a particular restaurant on their birthday, you may want to celebrate that with going and remembering them. Yeah. We don't talk about it because we don't want to talk about talk about it. Talk about the funny stories. Once you are able to grieve and process stuff, and it's no longer the pain, because you're going to grieve, but you're going to grieve without the pain. You can look at the funny things. You can look at the positive things. You can look at all of it, and it's okay. But so you find ways that's special for you.
Yeah.
And special that would honor them. You may want to start something in their name, a foundation. You may want to do a lot of things.
Yeah. Or take that trip that they always wanted to go on.
Take that trip they always, and you say, God, I wish they could have gone while they were here. Yeah, that would have been nice, but I'm going to do it in their honor.
Yeah, I like that. What's like, and we just spoke about this, like especially after divorce or someone loses a loved one that a romantic partner, how does that affect their ability to love again, and how should they not allow it to affect?
Well, it depends on how often or how much they have gotten stuck. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I say to people is process your feelings. Be honest with your feelings. Get help in processing those feelings, because what happens is we think, oh, no one will ever love me, or I can't ever love again. They hurt me so bad. We all get hurt. Mm-hmm. That's part of living. But if you didn't love, you wouldn't hurt. Yeah. And so one of the things I tell people is understand the process. Understand that you're going to be okay. You may not be okay today, and you will be able to live without that person regardless of how that loss came about. But you may have to redefine, because it's a new normal. Mm-hmm. And you can't expect the next person to do exactly what the previous person. And we tend to compare. Mm-hmm. I remember, my husband.
Well, David always bought me flowers
that's right. He
on
always
the first.
Say, this is a new day. New day, new time. Like, sorry, and it's okay.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, how does unprocessed grief show up in those new relationships or even friendships?
They show up big time.
Yeah.
They show up through comparison. They say, well, we always did this. Well, he never said, or she never.
Mm-hmm. That's
and
not
you'll
fair.
hear that, and the new person is going to get tired of that, because they know, but I'm not that person.
Well, I'm not David.
And that's when the conflict starts. Well, you should be like David. He always did. Well, then go back and get David. Mm-hmm. David left for a reason, or you're not with David for whatever reason. If it was a divorce, you can't control death.
Yeah.
But the reality is, you're not going to find that other person. You may find traits similar, but you're not going to find that person.
Yeah. And how do you know that you're ready to date again or love again after something like that?
You allow your heart to lead you. You allow yourself to feel. And remember, once you allow yourself to feel, and don't rush into a relationship because you have a void. Don't, a lot of people go, well, I need to be with someone. No, you need to be quiet and be still and be alone for a minute to heal, because we rush into new relationships when we haven't closed old wounds.
Yeah.
And that's, it's like pouring salt in it.
How or what does a healthy emotional intimacy look like after heartbreak or even a major loss?
It grows naturally.
Because sometimes, like you said, you don't even want to open back up.
Yeah, it grows naturally. And it's not something you rush into. It's not something that's physical. And a lot of times we think, well, I'm going to be romantic and I'm going to get into this physical. No, you got
the offer says you get over somebody by getting under somebody.
And then you smother.
Yes.
And then you smother. They don't tell you that part, do they?
Yeah.
But no, that's not true. And what you have to allow yourself to do is, first of all, get to know who you are in a new season. Because you're never going to be the same person you were when you were with that other person.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, even through death, through divorce, through whatever, you're not the same. And don't try to make yourself the same old person, because you're not going to be.
Yeah.
So get to know the new you. Get to understand who you are in this season. A lot of times people don't even know what they like or what they don't like, because they've been with someone for such a long time and this is just how we did it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
But did you even enjoy that?
Did you even enjoy that?
Or was that you, or was that the blending of you two together?
That's right.
So who are you without that person?
That's right. So you have to be okay with redefining yourself and getting to know. I had a patient once used to say she ate the same salad every day. She was, for months she had been eating the same salad every day. She was trying to lose weight. And I did this mindfulness exercise where you get into the here and now moment and you sort of embrace and allow yourself to feel and taste things differently. And she said that after she did that exercise, the next day when she had the salad, she was slowing down to eat the salad and thinking about what I said. She said, I thought, I really don't like
salad. I've been eating this salad for a month. I don't even like it.
I really don't like. There's some parts of this salad that tastes nasty. But we don't allow ourselves. We don't allow ourselves time. And we have to be patient and allow ourselves some time to get to know who we are and what we like, and most of all, what we don't want.
Yeah. What role or responsibility does our family, or should we put on our family, to have in our emotional healing?
Well, we like to think they're going to be supportive, but support looks different for everyone. So we are responsible for self. Your family is not responsible for making you happy or helping you get through this. It's nice for them to be there, but you have to define support carefully, because our support system may not come from our blood relatives. It depends on how we define that person in our lives. So don't expect someone in our family to take the load because we're feeling better. And a lot of times I see anger. You're talking about grief that hasn't been processed. You see anger, you see agitation, you see guilt, you see all these sense of abandonment. And we tend to put that on somebody else, and it's all kinds of conflict that really is not necessary. Yeah.
I like how you've always used God or spirituality in your practice.
Yes.
What advice do you give to someone when they feel like praying isn't working while they're grieving?
And that happens quite often, and I say, don't stop praying. It's not that God doesn't hear you. Maybe you haven't stopped to listen.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah.
So, so often we're like, I prayed today and nothing happened. Oh, okay. He's not on our timetable.
Because sometimes we moving so much, we ain't even sitting still long enough to hear him.
We don't even sit still to hear. And we don't get still enough to hear anything or anybody.
But our own thoughts.
But our own thoughts, and they just spinning around and around. And you go, I wonder why I'm thinking that. Well, that's the only thing you're listening to, So I say to people, don't give up on God. He hasn't left you. And I'm one of these people that also, I'm a believer. And I know that he hears us even when we don't realize he's hearing us. But also don't allow yourself to be so caught up that you can't understand that you need help. It's not prayer or therapy. It's prayer and therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they both work hand in hand.
It works hand in hand.
What does it, well, you've said that joy is a discipline, right? how do people rebuild the capacity to feel joy after a deep loss or a letdown?
Well, you have to choose happiness. Happiness is not something that just you run out and pick up today. You choose joy, you choose happiness, but you also define that, and it comes from within. A lot of times we're looking for external things to validate us, to say things, but it's not coming from that. Because if you're expecting other people to validate you and to make you feel good, then you have given them control of your life. You've given them all your power. Because they can decide if you're going to have a good day or a bad day. But you choose joy. You choose happiness.
So how do you retrain your brain like that after emotionally after grief?
You become human. You become human, and that's where my work comes in, to help people understand they are human. And a lot of times, like, I know that, I know, but do you really know it, and how is it shown? Because it's not about retraining our brains. Sometimes it's about training, because we were never trained in the first place.
True.
So, so how do we look at things differently? How do we learn to appreciate things in a different manner?
And how do we continue to, like you said, create that joy internally and learn to not tie our happiness to external situations or even other people?
First, you understand that I have to get to know who I am. I need to know who I am as a person, not what I do, what I guess. Who am I as a person? And a lot of times we don't know who we are. And once we know who we are, we know that our joy and our happiness is not tied to everybody else, because we understand me. You understand me, and you can say, okay, I can do this, or this is something I don't want to do.
So because this is Better with Brit Renee, I always ask my guests, what's something that you want to be better at in life right now?
I'm always growing. I'm always open to new things, and I just want to be the best person I can be at any given day. And I think my goal is to be whatever God has me to be in the best way possible, and understand it's okay. It's okay if some days it just doesn't work out, it doesn't meet the standard, but it's okay.
I like that.
I would like to, before we leave, if it's okay, can I talk a little bit about the healing journey, because it's so important for people to understand. I do a lot, and that's really important, but I have a free webinar that you can go to on my website, letshealtoday.com. And I did a webinar on navigating grief during the holidays. Since we've been talking so much about that, there are so many nuggets. I really want people to plug into, but also beyond the holidays, I do the healing journey, and that's a 10-week online program to help people get through this grief process. And we really unpack things. It's not one of those support groups where you're going to come week after week and you're going to cry and then go back. No, I'm going to help you work through it to get to the other side. And what's so important about the healing journey, it creates a sense of support. It gives you practical tools and gives you a way out of whatever you're feeling. And if you're feeling stuck, I can help you through that process. But most importantly, it's a process where you're going to have other people. That it's a small group, it's a confidential group, and it's a safe group. There's no judge. It's a no judgmental zone. And it is fun, but you're going to laugh. You're going to cry, but you're going to heal. Because if you really want to be the best version of yourself, you owe it to yourself to do something differently.
So go ahead and look up the webinar, the free webinar at, what's the website again?
Letsheal.com. Letshealtoday.com.
Letshealtoday.com. We can all use that free webinar. And then I feel like that the therapy, the healing journey is a great gift to give to someone during this holiday season, especially if you know they may have just lost someone or lost someone recently and still dealing with grief. That's a great holiday, a thoughtful holiday gift.
That is a very thoughtful holiday gift that they will appreciate for a lifetime. And you can sign up for that on letshealtoday.com as well.
So we're going to letshealtoday.com for all of our resources and to get more information about you, right, Dr.
Absolutely.
Sherry?
You can go to AskDrSherry.com. I'll go to Let'sHealToday.com.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
I'm
I've
excited.
enjoyed this.
Yes. Now, before you go, I have
Okay.
to tell you, I at the end of every episode, I do what's called a trapfirmation.
Okay.
So it's an affirmation, but I just put my little spin on it, and it's based off of what my guest or whatever we talked about. So
Okay.
this one is for us today. And this week's trapfirmation is, I feel my hurt and I let it be, but every day I'm healing me. My heart may ache, my tears may fall, but peace still finds me through it all.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope that this has helped you, whether you're grieving the loss of someone, the loss of a relationship, empty nesting. I didn't even think about that. Your kids going off to college, or, you know, different situations, a career change, whatever you are grieving the loss of or transition of. I hope that you took something away from this. And if you need more resources, please head over to Dr. Sherry's website at Let'sHealToday.com. And until next week, y'all, let's keep being better together, one conversation at a time. That is another episode of Be Better with Brit Renee.